Everybody's talking about how good Liverpool were last night. A 4-0 win, a complete turnaround, more intensity, more urgency, better structure. And yes, all of that is true, but sometimes football analysis becomes one-sided. When one team looks exceptional, it is often because the other team allows them to be. And that is the part very few are talking about. This was not just a great Liverpool performance. This was also a very poor Galatasaray performance. And if we want to understand what this result really means, especially ahead of PSG and Brighton, we have to look at both sides of the story. The reality behind the scoreline. On paper, this looks like dominance. And statistically, it was extreme. Liverpool had 28 shots. Galatasaray had just 2. Liverpool had 16 shots on target. Galatasaray had 1. The expected goals tell an even clearer story. Liverpool recorded 5.02 expected goals. Galatasaray had just 0.18. This is not just dominance. This is collapse. When a team produces only 2 shots in a knockout game where they are defending a 1-goal advantage, it tells you something deeper. This was not just Liverpool being good. This was Galatasaray failing to compete. Galatasaray's structural problems. One of the biggest factors was their inability to handle pressure. From the first minute, Liverpool pressed aggressively. But what was surprising was how easily Galatasaray broke under it. Their passing was poor. Their structure was disorganized. Their transitions were slow. Even basic positioning was inconsistent, with players out of place and unable to maintain shape. And when a team loses structure, everything else collapses. They could not build from the back. They could not hold possession. They could not relieve pressure. So Liverpool kept coming again and again. The away factor and missing atmosphere. Galatasaray are a completely different team at home. Their stadium is one of the most intense environments in football. But away from home, especially in Europe, it is a different story. Even before the match, their poor away record was already a concern. And last night, without their usual crowd presence, that psychological edge disappeared. No pressure on Liverpool, no intimidation, no momentum. What you saw was a team that relies heavily on environment, suddenly exposed without it. Second half collapse. The first half still had some resistance. Their goalkeeper even saved a penalty. But once the second goal went in, the game was over. Not tactically, mentally. Liverpool scored 3 goals in the second half, and Galatasaray had no response, no adjustment, no composure, no control. That is the difference between a good team and a top team. Top teams suffer but stay in the game. Galatasaray completely fell apart. Individual moments versus collective failure. Yes, there were exceptional goals. Szoboszlai, Ekitike, Salah, Gravenberch, But the real issue was not just the quality of those finishes. It was how easily those chances were created. When a team allows 5 expected goals, it is not about individual brilliance anymore. It is about collective defensive failure. Space between lines, poor marking, slow reactions, and no control of tempo. The bigger question for Liverpool. Now comes the important part. What does this result actually mean for Liverpool? Because beating a collapsing team and facing a team like PSG are 2 very different challenges. Against Galatasaray, Liverpool controlled everything. Against PSG, they will not. PSG just scored 8 goals across 2 legs to reach this stage. They have pace, they have structure, and most importantly, they will punish mistakes. Sustainability of this performance. Liverpool played with intensity, high pressing, constant movement, fast transitions. But the real question is not whether they can reach this level. The question is whether they can sustain it, because this kind of football demands energy. And energy drops across games, especially with a Premier League schedule. Immediate test against Brighton. Even before PSG, there is a league match against Brighton. And this is where things become interesting. Brighton will not collapse like Galatasaray. They are structured, they are disciplined, and they will force Liverpool to think, not just run. After such a high-intensity European night, fatigue becomes a factor, rotation becomes a factor, and mental sharpness becomes a factor. Final perspective. So yes, Liverpool were very good, but they were allowed to be very good. Galatasaray did not just lose, they disappeared. And that is why this result should be understood carefully. Because the next opponents will not give the same space. They will not collapse under pressure. And they will not allow Liverpool to play this freely. The real test begins now.